And we're live.
Yes, we are.
Hello, everybody. This is Derrek Mooney with Awareone Apparel and with the co-founder, Rob Mada. Rob, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, man. It's a great day. I'm excited to get this podcast going, and it's gonna be a great thing that we're doing here, man.
This is the introduction to Awareone Radio, and pretty much today we want to talk about why we started, what our future plans are, and how we are going to do that. So pretty much, introduce yourself to everybody, Rob.
Well, Rob Mada. Glad and very happy to kind of be starting this up with you, man. It's been 6 months now. It's been a great time. I'm excited for everything that's taken place so far, and I'm ready to just get everything rolling, man. We got nothing but good things ahead, and it's gonna be good, man. Excited.
So for everyone listening, like I said, we're going to be talking about why we started this. And for everyone that doesn't know Rob and I, we've known each other for the last, how many years has it been now?
Well, it'd be like six years now, I guess. Yeah,
just over 6 years.
2013, that would have been the year I came back here from Ontario. So
that's right. And we are both from Ontario, everyone knows that. Two Ontario guys.
Don't hold that against us, please.
Please do not hold that against us, all the BC listeners. Rob is one of my best friends, and I had this idea. So I'm gonna tell everyone about my story first.
Yep.
But since you already know, you're just gonna have to sit back and enjoy the ride. But for everyone, the reason why I wanted to start Awareone Apparel, it goes back to my stepfather passing away. He passed away in a car accident January 19th, 2018, and it was a big hit. It was one of the most traumatic things that's ever happened in my life, by far. That had the most impact on my family and I, and I kind of got into a state of mind. I was very depressed. I was very down, and a few months go by, and I feel that I was down for a certain amount of time, and I wanted to get out of that rut. So that's kind of where it all started, looking into what mental health is, to get better. And this is when I discovered what mental health was, believe it or not. So once I started looking into ways of learning for myself to get better, I kind of wanted to look into also being involved in mental health events, being involved in the community. So that's when I started looking into volunteering. So going back to last June, 2018, there was an event called Ride, Don't Hide, which I wanted to be a part of, to volunteer and to just see what's going on and how many people are actually involved in the mental health world here in this small town in Vernon, BC. And I met the guy that started Ride, Don't Hide, Michael Schrader. That kind of had a pretty big influence on me to start something of my own, and started, it got my head spinning on ideas. From seeing so many people there. I don't know how many people there was. There was a few hundred people there that were participating in the event. And then once I'd spoken to him as well, before I left the event that day, I don't know if I ever told you this.
Yeah, you did.
But he just, he said to me that, it looks like you're going to do something great, so all the best to you. And that really, gave me it lighted a spark under me, and then, a few months go by, and I come up with this idea, we should talk about this more. And I kept it to myself for a little bit. And then that's when on Canada Day last year, I brought the idea up. I'm like, Rob, we should start an apparel company, man.
Yeah. It was an exciting day, man. It was really, that was a great day. And just going back to Michael, it's the same thing that we talk about all the time, positive influences, right? It took one person to say something to you that was like, it changed your whole perspective. Right? That's what we're trying to do.
What was like the first thought that when I told you that, like after?
Well, I remember because we were sitting I was parked outside of Nestor's right by my place. And you came and sat in the car, and where I was going to drive around because I was waiting outside of Nestor's for you. And you told me, and I literally took half a second and said, I'm in. Let's go. Like, this is exactly, in my wheelhouse. It's what I do every single day. I try to inspire people. I try to be, a better version of myself. And why not try to help others with that as well, and then work on our own mental health. So I think it just was one of those things. It's meant to be, man. It's like certain people come in your life. It's meant to happen, man. It's meant to happen.
And for those who don't know, so it was Canada Day, so we were having a good time that night.
Yeah.
But for those who don't know who Rob is, the type of guy he is, he says something, but in my mind, I was like, he probably just said that because we were having a good day. But it wasn't that. He was hungover the next day, calls me up, let's do this.
Yeah.
That was the turning point right there.
When we had the conversation, we hadn't done anything yet, right? Because you just got there. We didn't have we hadn't been doing anything. Nobody was around. It was just the two of us. And, when I go with something, I'm going to go all in. And, probably to a fault sometimes, but it's the only way I know how to do it. I can't do something halfway. So.
And it has been a process, man, figuring things out. How to start an apparel company, man. It's been quite the adventure.
Yeah.
And it's only been, actually, think about it, 6 months today.
Yeah.
On the 19th of April is when we actually launched Awareone this year.
Yeah.
So today is a very special day, which is, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible, actually. I didn't think about that either.
Wow. Yeah. So it is the 19th. So Rob, I just want everyone to know more about you before I start going off on me all the time. So what is mental health to you?
I think it's just, it's a state of mind when you're thinking about things every single day. We just had this conversation before we started about wanting to do things a little bit differently. And I just brought up the idea of saying we talk every day. So what can we do that's different and say to each other one thing that we're thankful for, that we're proud of, or that we're excited about every single day, no matter what it is. It could be, your example was, man, I might have just had like a great stretching session, or, this glass of water was incredible. It's silly stuff like that. It could be something big though. You could be really proud of an accomplishment. It doesn't matter what it is, but we get away from that sometimes where, we talk about lots of different things, but then there's, sometimes it's just a surface conversation about, Awareone, just talking about the website or talking about this and that. And I think really kind of sharing those experiences is what we need to do. And I think when it comes to mental health, back to the point is that really when you take a look at everything, you have to be so focused on your mental health, because no different than we just talked about with Michael Schrader, he says one positive thing to you and it changes your mindset. And that can be flipped into the negative way as well. So being conscious of your words, not only to other people, but then being conscious of your words to yourself is a huge thing. Like me personally, I work with kids every day. That's what I've done for my whole life. Using certain language with them is going to shape who they are, even if you're only with them for a few hours a day. Right. So, it's one of those things. It's got to be a state of mind, right? So,
and for working with kids. So what do you do on a daily basis? What is your job?
Yeah, so I work for the Boys and Girls Club. I also own a company that is a basketball training company. So I'm working with high level athletes, and then now Awareone for the last 6 months. So, but when it comes to the kids side of things from the Boys and Girls Club, I've worked in every different avenue when it comes to that organization. So I've worked with kids forever. I've done that for over 20 years now. I started working with kids when I was 15 through a simple and senseless act of bullying. But we can get into that part later. Yeah, but I think, on a daily basis, working with kids every day, whether it's overseeing after school programs, whether it's overseeing staff, all those kinds of things, it's working with kids is an interesting experience because you get to see how they relate to what you're doing as a person versus all of the other people in their life. And we don't really think about that when it comes to kids. We think, oh, well, they should just listen to what I say because I'm an adult. And that's just not the case. Like, they don't do that. And you got to remember when someone is, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, they have so many people in their life that are telling them what to do. Yeah. They have their parents, they have their teachers, they have after school people, they have coaches, they have friends. And, you really need to be conscious of what you're saying to them because, again, back to that point with Michael Schrader, one thing you say to a child can change their perspective. And I don't think people take it that seriously, and they don't think about kids' mental health as much as they do, listen to what I say, do what I tell you to do, kind of fall in line. That's the way a lot of, people or parents or whoever, they do it that way. And it's good to a point, but at the same time, sometimes it just takes a simple question, talking to kids, and being able to get down to their level, right? So,
yeah, that's a good point, and especially when you're talking to, another adult. It's the same type of thing. I think we forget to do that with ourselves sometimes too. Just actually ask questions that we would ask kids.
Exactly.
Like small little questions. Because it's all about how you feel at the end of the day, and that's what affects your mental health. So.
Keeping it simple and honestly asking, like you can ask yourself, how are you feeling today? Like everyone as humans for the most part talks to themselves in some way, shape or form, whether it's in your own head, whether it's out loud. So being able to ask yourself those questions is it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But remembering to do it, that's the hard part and actually just doing it.
Moving on back to Awareone Apparel. So, for when I wanted to start this company, I just think that apparel it's an ongoing thing, and it's such a great way for people to start a conversation, and especially a face-to-face conversation.
Definitely.
And when I came up with the idea, I actually I don't know if I showed you those pictures that I wrote down, just fake little T-shirt designs, and I came up with just slogans on them, or you're good, or something like that, or enjoy the day, or something like that. And I didn't really know how to comprehend it into a certain into what we have now. But I feel that apparel it's everyone's always going to have clothes on their back, and everyone's going to always want to try and be fashionable in some sense, find their way. What do you think, moving forward down the road, what else can we do?
Well, I think even just to talk about something that we are going to be doing on April 19th of next year, 2020, doing our, it'll be an annual charity basketball tournament where we're going to raise, hopefully thousands and thousands of dollars based on all the things that we've talked about to go towards mental health programs. And that has nothing to do with making money. It has nothing to do with apparel. It's really just about, again, spreading that message. And with something like this, it can go as far as we want it to go. However much effort we want to put in, we have the same personality in many ways. When we're stuck on something, we're on it, we're all in, and we're going to push as hard as we can to make it happen, and we're not going to stop. So it can go so far, charity events, community, one of our main goal is to impact the world. That's what we want to do at the core of everything. So how do we do that? There's so many different ways, and we talk about things like charity events or, the apparel, things like that. It's honestly, man, it's one of those things that I think, we can take it anywhere we want to go, and we have that attitude, and we want to push people to have that same feeling,
Obviously, I totally agree, and we talk about this all the time, but impacting the world, and I want to touch on that quickly because it doesn't mean that we're going to be selling in Kenya. It doesn't mean we're going to be selling apparel all over the world, but I think what that means is that you're affecting everything around you, and whatever you can do, and whether you be in a grocery store or whether you be in the library, wherever you're at, especially when you're at home, impacting your environment in a positive way. So when we talk about impacting the world, it just means impacting your world, and my world. And not just selling apparel to different countries. That's not what we're talking about. No. Obviously that'd be pretty cool if we saw somebody rocking the A1 logo and on the other side of the world in Australia or something. That'd be pretty cool. We still need to figure out the shipping details. But anyways, I'm just making sure your world is impacted in the right way and in a healthy, mentally healthy way. So that's number one. And what the second goal that we have, I'll let you say the second goal.
Yeah, just to give back to our community again, working with the Boys and Girls Club and doing lots of different things with them for the past 12 years. It's just one of those things that you have to do, and we're passionate about that. So how can we look at starting locally and build from here and then go forward, right? We don't want to start far away. We want to start close to home. So giving back to our community at all times. We're donating right now 5% of all of our proceeds in sales to mental health and here in Vernon, right? So why not continue that? And maybe it's 10%. Maybe again, basketball tournaments where we could hopefully donate $10,000, $15,000 in all of these different avenues where, we're looking at giving back to the community somehow. And we're going to start here in Vernon. We're going to start in Kelowna. We're going to start in Penticton. We're going to start close to home, and we're going to make it happen.
Giving back. And also we want to donate, but we also, it goes in hand with impacting the world. We want to give back. So if someone holds the door for you, you hold the door for the next person. 100%. That's giving back to the community. It's not just donating money. It's always by your actions. So that's something that I want to always emphasize when we talk about our goals, is that, it's the small things. Like we just said earlier before we started this, talking about the small things, how important that is to your mental health. And then the last one.
Yeah, just to create change like that. That's what we want to do overall, right? We want people to understand that this is something that's very important. And, I think that we have that vision of, one person, or in our case, two people can change the world in a positive way if we put enough effort in. Again, we're going to start locally. It's not going to be something that's huge right away, but creating change, man. Like what more can you ask for when you're really looking at, doing something like this? You're just going to create change in as many people as possible and in yourself. Yeah. Change, everyone knows that change is really scary. You want to change things in your life, like, which we'll get into, obviously, maybe quitting your job and trying something new, right?
For everyone that doesn't know, I did just have my last shift at a full-time position last night. I worked at a sawmill for 2 years, 5 months, 4 days. It was a long haul, man. Yeah. Like I'm so happy that I have something to look forward to, and to do these. These are our goals, and for me to be able to have that much more time to focus on them that's why I'm happy right now. Yeah. It's not. I mean, I'm not telling everyone to quit their job and chase your dreams, but it is something that's very important to me, especially when you have something that's as important as this. Yeah. It's a big move. For everyone listening, they're probably like, "Whoa, like this guy's serious." Yeah. And I am serious, but it's just something I'm very happy, and there's a bright future ahead of this, and I believe in Awareone, and I believe in what we're going to do. So, I put two and two together, and I just said, enough's enough. This is it. I'm going to go in all 100%, and especially with doing these podcasts too. The reason I wanted to start a podcast is just another way to create awareness and another platform for us to be on, to talk about the things that are important, and not just, this is what I was thinking the other day, because I was talking about, how you have to have like a lot of people on social media, they talk to their phones.
Yeah, all day long.
Like, to make a video, and it's cool. Like, a lot of people can pull that off. Yeah, a lot of people can, and we probably could. Yeah. I don't. That's not my personality. Yeah. I can't pick up my phone and be like, "Hey guys, this is what we're doing today," and I just can't do that. And I think this is how it kind of turned into that. Of how I can't talk to my phone, but I can talk to other people about what I'm like, wanting to talk about. Yeah.
Or you can, but it's going to take time to get to that level where you're like, where you feel comfortable, and that in itself is mental health. Yeah. If you think about that, like, because I would say we're both like, confident people by nature, but yet there's certain things where you're still not as confident. Like, that is mental health. Like, why, like, if you were to ask yourself, why can't I just pick up the phone, put on, go to Instagram, put on IG Live, or, your story, whatever it is, and post a video of whatever you're doing. Hey guys, I'm just on my way to the gym right now, or I'm on my way to go play basketball, or, I'm going to work, I'm in a good mood today, this and that. Why can't, like, what is it about it that you can't do that, right? Like, it's funny, but nobody ever asks those questions. All they do is talk about the things they can do versus the things that they can't do. Yeah. And that, to me, is mental health. You need to address those things. We all have weak points, and it's just one of those things. We got to try to strengthen those as much as we can through any means possible. Just you got to just put in the work, right?
And back to the podcast thing, I think this is one of the most effective ways to talk about these things, and it's face to face.
Yep.
You know, like, and that, like, even doing the podcast yesterday with Justin Bryan, really cool guy, but it was like just to hear his story and like to be face to face with like some real emotion, you know, rather than just like looking at, like, people would not take me as seriously, or they wouldn't have the same amount of feelings as they would me talking to my phone or me talking to you right now. I can't express myself through a phone as I can express my feelings to you, because you're like, there's interaction here, you know, and that's why I like this stuff. Like, this is the coolest thing. Yeah, it's really exciting, and I'm just excited to be starting this, man. Especially, you know.
No, I know. It's just one of those things that we're gonna, again, it's just another way to get this out there, that people need to be, you know, okay with talking about everything in their life, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, right?
Yeah.
So that's,
No, it's big. And moving along, talking about our future plans for Awareone. Pieces of apparel. We have a couple of pieces of apparel online that you can purchase. We have our heather gray hoodie. We have our white tee. But we have our snapback hats, and you can check out our page at awareoneapparel.com. And I wanted to touch on people giving us feedback. So if anyone's listening to this, and you guys, there's a comment section on our page that you can go, and, you know, we're always open for feedback and what you guys think of, you know, our website, or, you know, our clothes, our color scheme, whatever the case may be. That's another thing too.
Yeah, I think something with that, you know, along the same lines, is that, you know, we're just two regular people. So, you know, feel free to, you know, message us on Instagram or whatever, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. We're going to answer. We don't have some person running our account that like won't answer you or whatever. Right. You know, even if you just want to, we've had so many people reach out to us via, you know, Instagram, direct message, and just tell us that they're so thankful for us starting this, and a lot of people have actually shared their life story, and we don't even know who they are. Right. Or, you know, they just want to, you know, represent something that to them is powerful and impactful, and that's really at the core of what we're trying to do, right? We're really trying to just impact as many people as we can and go from there.
Yeah. Meant for the people that have reached out to, like, I have some people that I haven't spoken to in forever that have reached out to me and shared what they have gone through, which is also that's a special thing to me too, is because people are looking at, and this is what it's supposed to do. This is what Awareone is supposed to do. It's supposed to create, you know, that unknown, and you're not afraid. You shouldn't be afraid to talk to me about this, you know. And I think it gives them like an outlet, you know, which I'm very thankful for as well. Just to be able to, one, create this with you, and then secondly, you know, to have people come to me and talk to me about their stuff, of what they're going through. And all it is, you know, a lot of the times is just listening, you know, listening to what people are saying, and you don't have to say anything. Yep. You know, you just, okay, this is what, that's crazy.
Yeah. Just you find out what people are going through, and you don't need to offer advice. You don't need to do anything. Sometimes people just want someone to listen without any, you know, feedback or anything like that. They just want to be able to get things off their chest with no judgment or worry or fear, which is really, I think, the main reason why people don't talk about this kind of stuff, because they're afraid of being judged. Yeah. And the more we can break those walls down, the better off we're going to be, because it just becomes so much easier to live your life when you're able to talk about those things that really, you know, are not fun to talk about, but you need to, because the more you don't, it'll build up and build up and build up. And it's typically not a good thing when it gets to a point where it boils over. Right? Yeah.
Fear of what people are going to say, fear of judgment, you know. Speaking of fears, Rob, what are you afraid of?
Oh man, there's a few things I would say when it comes to like mental health specifically. I think, that judgment, that fear, when you are, you know, maybe portrayed as like a confident person, you know, you really have to work on ways to let your guard down. It took a while for me to really do that. But I also know now, like I used to be a person that, valued having lots of people around me. And I always, like, I love people. I love kids. I want to be around people all the time. But for me, one of the biggest things was being alone. Like I didn't actually really ever want to be alone. So, and now I'm starting to value my alone time more than anything, which is kind of interesting because
Really?
I would never be like that. So,
This is something new to me. I never.
yeah. And we've never even talked about this. And it's just one of those things. I love being busy. Like, again, you have, basically doing 2 companies, and then you have a job that you do. So I'm really busy when it comes to the hours in the day that I need to occupy. But it's what you do in the hours that you're not doing those things. So for me, I was always like, go, 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 go. I just want to, I'm going to work 12 hours or 14 hours. I don't want to go home and just sit there.
Right.
I want to go and do something else. And, it kind of goes back to a different point, but it's all about who you have in your life for me. So I would want to have lots of people around. Now I've kind of dwindled that circle down to people that I truly want to spend time with, as opposed to just doing stuff with people, if that makes any sense. But,
it does.
And how you do that for me is having positive people, like, to speak briefly about it, just because I don't want to get too like, sappy or emotional about it. But, it's one of those things where, like, my girlfriend, who you know very well, Silvia, she changed my life, I think, in a lot of ways. And like before I met her, and before we actually started dating, I was a different person. And I think that through that, it really opened my eyes to a lot of different things. And now I don't know what I would do without her. So, and I've never felt about that way about anybody other than my family. You have friends, you have girlfriends throughout your life, or boyfriends, whatever. But I honestly can say, like, I don't know what I would do without her. So for me to say that, I know I have changed massively. Right. When I'm not only am I saying that, but I'm saying it openly in front of however many people are going to listen to this. Like 10 years ago, I would have never done that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I'm 37 now. When I was 27, there's no way I would have said that on a podcast for people to listen to.
Right.
I just wouldn't have. And, now it's completely different. So I think that, she's changed my life. You have, I've got some other people in my life that I've known since I moved to Kelowna in 2005 that they've changed my life for the better. To me, that's what it's all about. And I want to spend time with those people when I have my free time versus just going and doing some random stuff with random people. Like I really want to focus on the people that are around me. My dad has said something to me my entire life: take care of the people who take care of you. So
that's some good advice.
Yeah. So if those people are around, and all of my family, again, like some of your family lives in Ontario, they're on the other side of the country. So I get to see them all the time. That's awesome. But they're still like, I'm talking to my dad every day. I'm talking to my mom, my sisters, and my brothers. And it's just one of those things that you really have to focus on it, though. Because for me, that was a big fear of just not really wanting to be alone, like just by myself watching TV or something. Like I always wanted to be busy and doing something. So that's a huge thing for me. I would say that's was one of my biggest fears. And I'm over that now because I know I'm more comfortable doing certain things like that and appreciating my alone time.
Man, I like what you said about the family thing, man. I think over time I get more and more aware of how important my family and friends are. Yeah. And obviously, like you're so busy trying to figure out what you want to do in life, and you're so like life happens, things just get thrown in front of you and you have to kind of figure it out. But after time, there's people that you meet that just come and go. And especially when you're trying new things all the time, like I was doing before, like I just said, this job I just quit is the longest job I've ever had in my life. Yeah. But, before that, I'm always just so sporadic. I'm all over the place. And I never really took the time to just call people up. Like I did this the other day. I called my brother, my older brother, and then my dad. And I'm going to start practicing gratitude more, man, because you know, sometimes you just have to let people know, especially at random times, because it throws people off. And it's like, it's really cool to hear they're like, they're just so distraught. They don't really know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, they don't know how to respond, right? It's
and
pretty interesting.
I called my dad, and I'm just like, Dad, like, you know, I'm so thankful for like the things that you did, you know, to be able like to be the person that I am today, you know, because I like who I'm becoming. I like the state of mind I'm in right now, and I like, you know, what the future looks like. And it all comes back to your parents and like who your environment, the things that shaped you, you know, and it's huge for him to hear that too, because then that gives him confidence in himself too, and it just makes the whole thing go around and round and round. You know what I mean? Like it's positive feedback, and he appreciates it. The next day he texted me like some funny thing and then said, "Thank you so much for that. It means a lot." And for him to be saying stuff like that to me now, you know, obviously no one knows my dad, but like our relationship was a lot different when I was younger, you know, and we've come such a long way, and it all comes back to like just being thankful and showing gratitude. And I told my brother the same thing, you know, and he was just, it kind of threw him off a bit. Then he was just like, man, like, thank you so much for saying that, like, you know, and it needs to be said more often, you know, and
it does.
For not just your actual family members, but your close friends. If you don't have any mom or dad, you know, just tell your best friend on a more regular basis, like, man, I really appreciate you being here, you know, or just something like that, because it goes such a long way.
Because we take it for granted sometimes. I think just as humans, you really do, regardless of if you have, you know, 5,000 friends or you have 5 friends, you just take it for granted sometimes.
Right.
And, you know, when you're saying that about your dad, it's so funny because there's so many things where they happen and you just don't really realize it, like, you know, with Dusty's dad, right? So one of my best friends, his dad just passed away recently, a couple of weeks ago, and it hit me pretty hard. And we're at the celebration of life, and there's all of our, you know, all of our boys there, and everyone's at a certain point during the speeches, we all kind of broke down and really realized what was going on. And I instantly messaged my dad. I have like a little group message with my dad and my stepmom, and messaged them and was like, "I love you guys so much." Blah 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 blah. Like just said a little piece, right? Yeah. And then I have another group message with my 2 of my sisters and my mom, and so I send them a message and I'm like, "I love you guys so much." You know, and you have to say those things more. It's sometimes we have to go through like a struggle or a tragedy to really realize how much, but I mean, that's something that we're working on, especially as guys. And we've had this conversation a lot of times, right? Like, you know, typical guys aren't supposed to do things like that. They're not supposed to show their emotion, or they're supposed to be like tough or manly or whatever. But that's, you know, kind of like we talked about before with, you know, that quote that was strong is the new skinny. Every girl, you know, wanted to use that as their slogan when they were in the gym and they were getting in better shape and all this other stuff. And that's kind of like, yeah, you know, for guys especially, I know it affects girls as well, but for guys, it's, you know, mental health is the new sexy.
That's,
you know? Like that's what it is. Like, honestly, really working on those things as, you know, as a guy, and being open with just saying, hey, like, you know, I love you. Or, you know, even with your friends, man, like even right now, man, I love you, bro. What do you want me to say? Like, that's it. You know, it's one of those things that you really have to approach it that way sometimes, you know, and it shouldn't take those moments to tell your family or your friends or your girlfriend or your wife, your boyfriend, your husband, that you love them or that you care about them, or even just those little things and showing appreciation, right? Like,
I think it's going to be a constant theme, because I was just talking about it with our guest yesterday, Justin, and then I was just having the conversation with my brother the other day. It's going to be a constant theme, I think, on this podcast, because, you know, guys have to start stepping up and saying it's okay to talk about feelings, man.
100%.
It's okay, you know. Like, I don't care if you lift 500 pounds in the gym every day, you know. I don't care if you have, you know, your whole body's covered with tattoos and you have a mean face. Like, you have to talk about your feelings, man. Yeah. Because when you keep things inside of you, and this is just for me, but I feel it's for everybody, but when you keep things inside of you and you let it build up, that's when bad things happen down the road. Yeah. You know, and it comes from, you know, way back in the past. You might not even know why you're angry, but you just have to be patient with yourself and just keep on working on yourself. Yeah. and those feelings will eventually come out.
Yeah. Because people when you talk about the gym, right? Like, you can lift 500 pounds. People go to the gym. They spend so much time on their body or their appearance or their
Right.
clothing. They spend so much money on their clothing. Yet if I said to you, hey man, we're going to go shopping right now and you're going to buy a pair of jeans that costs $150 and they were awesome, really nice jeans, you would buy them. You wouldn't even think about it. But if I said, hey man, we're going to go to attend a counseling session, it's $150. How many people would say, "No, I'm good. I don't want to do that"?
Yeah.
A lot of people wouldn't do it. They're willing to, work on themselves, whether with their outward appearance, and spend money and spend time and energy and effort and sacrifice things for that. Yet when it comes to the mental health, people don't want to sacrifice. They don't want to spend the money. So where's the disconnect there? Like, what makes it different for people that they don't want to do that? Because it's the same thing. You're working on yourself and you're making yourself a better version at the end of the day. So why, like, where does that come from, right?
The external piece, everything. This is an external world. We get to see things, we have eyes to see these things, and I think people, and that's when it comes back to what we were talking about with the fear thing. People are afraid to be judged. They're afraid because we can see it. We can kind of have somewhat of an idea by looking at somebody, judging the book by its cover type thing. But yeah, like, you're right. A lot of people should sign up for that counselor instead of buy that pair of jeans.
Exactly.
I totally agree with that, man.
Because at the end of the day, when we're all gone from this world, no one's going to care about, when you were 27 or 35 or 45, what kind of jeans you had. No one's going to remember that.
Yeah.
No one's going to care if you drive a certain kind of car or whatever it is. Like, it's just, those things are not going to be the memory.
No.
And we need to focus on that. And, it's like anything else. So you want to put your effort in. So, you're going to go out, you're going to go to the store, you're going to go do something. You put on a pair of jeans, you put on nice shoes because you want to feel good.
Yeah.
And that is a good thing, but not to the extent where you're going to sacrifice something else like your mental health and not spend the money and the time and the energy when, you have to. Like, you just have to.
Like, back to the goals, man, because I love talking about goals. Goals are goals.
Yeah.
You're going to get there. Like, especially when you write them down. But I have this one goal written down. I talked to you about it too. Since we're talking about, the external motivational stuff, going to the gym. How many gyms are in this town?
Yeah.
I don't know how many are in this small little town, but I know there's a lot.
Yeah.
But there's no place where you can go into a building and work on your mental health unless you book a counseling session or a psychiatrist, whatever the case may be. But I want there to be a mental health gym.
Yeah. And
I think Awareone has that in the future plans, bro.
Yeah. 100%.
And, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm calling it up right now on Awareone's introduction podcast.
Yeah.
Eventually down the road,
Yeah.
there's going to be a building where you can walk into and pay a membership, a monthly fee, not $1,000, but like $45 a month, just like you're working on your body.
Yeah.
You're going to be working on your mind. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to come to surface one of these days.
100%.
I don't know how it's going to happen.
But even just having that, that to me is a positive mental health moment right there. It's like you believe in something, you're going to go after it. It's going to take time. It's going to take energy and effort. But anything that's worth anything takes time, energy, and effort.
Right.
So again, if you believe it, and and again, this comes from, my girlfriend Silvia, but she's the one that will say, if you believe something and you can see it, you can get it 100%. If you can speak it into existence, the more you say certain things that are positive, they're going to come to fruition. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And two things that come with us, being best friends, and that we both love Jim Carrey. So anyone out there who loves Jim Carrey, it's one of those things. The guy's one of the best.
I love Jim. I love Jim, man. Love him.
And he's probably the first person I ever heard that did anything like that with speaking into existence. I don't know if you know the $10 million check.
Oh yeah, with Oprah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, one of those things where, he's sitting there and he says, I did the, I wrote myself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered.
Yeah.
I put it in my wallet. I gave myself 5 years to get it. And it was like a few months before he got paid $10 million to do the mask.
Yeah.
And like, that's not a coincidence. I truly don't believe that's a coincidence.
No.
And that's only 5 years. Like, think about how fast 5 years goes by, you know?
Yeah.
And you can really accomplish anything if you want to. It's just that belief in yourself and surrounding yourself with positive people all the time. I know we touched on it already, but it is a huge aspect. If, you know, you're trying to start Awareone, you come to me and you say, hey man, I really we should do this. And I was like, what would your feeling have been if I said, no, man, I don't want to do that. That's stupid.
Just to let everyone know, if I did do it by myself, I don't think there'd be any hoodies yet.
Yeah, there'd be, yeah, exactly. You'd have no website. Like, you'd be done.
Oh
but the thing is that it's funny to think about that though. Like, what would your attitude be if I said that, or if 5 people said that, or 10 people said that? Those are the people, and it sounds really harsh, but it's just the truth. You have to eliminate those, whether it's an external source, whether it's a person, whether it's a job. You need to eliminate those from your life to truly feel happy and successful, because you're talking about your job and quitting your job. And obviously last year I did the same thing. I went through, you know, a really bad year in a new position that was really like daunting, and I was unhappy for a whole year. And the minute I got rid of that, my whole attitude changed. But I did that for 1 year of my life. Some people do that, just like the story that you might tell about that one guy at the mill. Some people do it for 40 or 50 years. Yeah. And you're like, you know, what a waste, right? Of whether it's your energy or your talent or your, you know, emotions. Like, there's so many things that go into it. And that's the same thing with, again, going back to Jim Carrey. During one of his speeches, it was at a university, I think, and he said that, you know, his dad lost his job. He was one of the funniest people around. He was a comedian. He was in a band or something like that. I think the band was there, but
he didn't take the risk.
He didn't take the risk, right? Yeah. He said, no, I'm going to get a safe job as an accountant. And when he was 50, I think it was 51 years old, he lost his job. Yeah. And Jim Carrey's whole thing is that, you know, you can fail at what you don't love, so you might as well take a chance on what you do love. Yeah. And that's, you know, now you're doing the same thing. I did it last year, and I'm like exponentially happier than I was last year. That was the worst working year of my life, and I've been working since I was 11 years old.
I quit my job. Last shift was literally almost 12 hours ago. I have never felt so good in my life.
You know, and it's, you know, you forget about those things, and it's, you know, but you get into a routine, and what do you do during that time when you're in a good routine and you think it's good, but really you're not actually that happy. And then your mental state and your mental health is now affecting your physical health. And you're just, you know, you're not the best version of yourself during those times. Yeah. So to look at what you're doing, now you're going to be doing something that you're happy with doing. You're passionate about it. That changes everything. It changes every day when you wake up. You're like, man, I'm excited to do this. Yeah. Like, I can go to work now personally, and I love my job every single day through the Boys and Girls Club. I love it. Yeah. That wasn't the case for a whole year. And it does make a big difference on how you feel and how excited you are. You should be excited about everything that you're doing for the most part, especially when it comes to work. Because if you're going to put that much effort into something, you need to love it. Yeah,
so. You have to. And then big shout out to Justin Brown, who was on the podcast already. He said something at the end. He's like, "Oh, dang, I should have said that when we were on the podcast, because when he was getting ready to leave, he said there's magic in all of us." And every single person, someone has something inside of them, whether they found it or not. You know, there's something special in all of us that we're able to create something that, you know, that is going to help everyone around us in a certain way, I believe, or it's just going to be very cool to see, or whether it's art or whatever the thing is, you know. And there's magic in every single one of us.
Definitely, man. And that's kind of part of it. It's like you think about all of these things on a daily basis, but we just don't say them out loud sometimes, or we don't say them out loud to other people. Like, if you feel like you have something to offer somebody, offer it, and don't expect anything in return. It's one of those things I notice with, like, you know, friends. If you're going to offer someone something, just offer it with no expectations, and you will be so happy. Those things will come back to you tenfold over time.
They'll come back.
I truly believe that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like when you're talking about, you know, Mario's passing, and then talking about your dad, like messaging your dad, calling your dad and telling him how he feels. And how you feel, sorry. And it's one of those things, like I did the same thing with my dad in 2012. I moved back to Ontario for a year. My dad had to have heart surgery. He could have easily died, no problem. Yeah. And that was like a very big wake up call for me. Like that was for me, it was like the biggest thing. My dad's one of my best friends. And I talked to him more than I talked to some of my, best friends, which is, pretty crazy if you think about it. Like I probably talk to him every day, every other day, and on the phone. And it's one of those things where you and I can be on the phone. We'll talk for an hour. It feels like 5 minutes. Yeah. I feel it's the same. It's just the same way with him. But it's one of those things that if I didn't really view that, I remember specifically getting back to Ontario. He was going to have the surgery in a couple of days. And I got in the shower at my mom's place and I just started like bawling my eyes out. I was just so upset. I'm like, I can't lose my dad. I can't lose my dad. And then I thought about it afterwards in relation to, funny enough, Michael Jordan, because he said this about his own dad when his dad was murdered. And he said, hey, some people don't have their dad for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I think he was 32 at the time, something like that, 32, 33. Yeah. And he said, I had my dad for 32 years. Some people don't have a dad at all. And honestly, I don't know why I thought of that, but it clicked into my brain. And I said, if this is his time, then this is the way it's going to go. I'm going to get through it. He wouldn't want me to be, sad or upset. I have some amazing memories with my dad, but the difference is like with you said the same thing about your dad, right? You have different memories when you're a kid and you're building a better relationship now. I had great memories with my dad at a young age. There's rough times. We lived just the two of us together. So, in high school, you're a high school kid, you're going to, you're going to give your dad a little bit of crap, but I mean, it's one of those things, man. You look at that from a very real perspective. And I thought about that, basically statement from Michael Jordan. Yeah. If this is the time, I had my dad for 30 years. I'm going to get through it. But it takes a lot to really say something like that to yourself, I think,
And for everyone listening, it doesn't have to be a father. It could be a mother, or it could be a brother, or it could be a friend, or it could be whatever. You had that person for that amount of time.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very important to think about.
Well, especially when it comes to, a lot of different little things. When you add them all up, it ends up being such a huge thing. But we only typically think about it back to that point of like during a bad time or a tragedy maybe or something like that. And, we have to get out of that mindset. We just have to get out of that mindset.
Yeah. Oh, it's so important, man. And it changes everything for so much better, man. Yeah. Like it's like just saying, like when I was on the phone with my dad last week and told him those things, like I felt something came out of me. Like it literally something came out of me that just felt so good. It was like a relief. Like, because tomorrow is not promised to anybody, just like everyone knows. Like the next hour isn't promised to anybody.
100%.
It's just like, making sure that they know it before something happens, it's like just a good feeling, So if there's anyone out there listening, I think it's if you haven't told someone that you love them in a while, just pick up the phone. Yeah. Pick up the text, even text them. Text them is not as, like, I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for?
When you can hear the emotion in someone's voice and you can see the look on their face or
FaceTime,
FaceTime, whatever it is, or if you're with them, like the feeling of, like a hug or whatever, those kinds of things, like you can feel that energy. Like
the more personal, the better.
The more personal, the better, man. Yeah. And that energy, like you can feel that from people. That's, if you try to be a positive person for the majority of the time, and, maybe I know you're kind of like this as well, but for me personally, I try to be positive all the time. Like I try to find the best in every situation. And that's sometimes not, like I'm learning this about myself. It's something that's not the best thing to do all the time. Sometimes you have to realize what the negative is in a situation, and you could try to change it
and embrace it
and embrace it, right? Yeah. Because if you look at it from that perspective, you try to be positive all the time, it's just not sustainable. So if you do that, like for me, I'm trying to look at it the other way and maybe say, well, I didn't like alone time. I maybe need to have that, like we were talking about earlier, right? Yeah. Whatever it is, or you have to address those things because you can't be positive all the time. It's not possible. Right.
When I'm not too sure who said it, but there was an expression that still sticks in my mind. You can let yourself be down, but just know like when the time is to pick yourself up. So like when you're down, you're down. You know, if something tragic happens, there's nothing that you can do about it. You have to feel those emotions, because if you don't feel them at that time, then later down the road they're going to hit you, and you're not going to be able to deal with them in the correct way.
Yeah.
You know, so when you're down, stay down and be down. It's okay to be down.
Yeah.
But then you can't be down forever. You know, so it maybe a month, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe a full year.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's time to pick yourself up, because you don't want to stay in that state. You want to be better, but just accept it at that specific time, and then keep moving forward. That's how it helped me, you know, especially when Mario passed.
Yeah.
You know, I was down and I just accepted it. You know, I said, this is how I'm going to be for a while. Like I can't change, because, you know, that was one of my best friends, you know.
Exactly.
Like it just hit me really, really hard, and I needed to feel those emotions at that point in time. And fortunately enough, I was in a position where, you know, I didn't have to worry about too much. You know, I just had to worry about myself at the time. You know, so yeah, just for further reference, like I always try and, you know, what we're talking about right now, I always try and feel those emotions. Whether it's happy, you know, you try and celebrate the wins. You know, 100%. Celebrate those wins, you know.
Because they're not always going to be there. And you're going to have to deal with those things, especially as you get older. Typically, those things, you know, they happen more and more often. You're going to deal with death. You're going to deal with, you know, whether it's a loss of a job, or maybe just leaving a job,
right.
You know, a breakup or whatever, divorce, like all of these different things that people, you know, I think that they just take for granted. Like I think we all do as humans. We just take it for granted.
Yeah.
And the more you realize that you're lucky to be a living human being, like to go back to, you know, someone we both really like with Gary Vee.
Yeah.
You know, like whatever the percentage, like what, trillion to 1 that you're a human. Like those are like the odds or whatever it is. Like find the best in those situations, even though like there's always going to be bad things that happen in your life. It's the way it is for everybody.
Yeah.
So how are you going to deal with those things and come out of it a better person? Like it's just something that we're trying to do every day, right? We're just trying to do it every day.
And then I'll touch on how I came up with the name Awareone. You know, so with mental health, you know, people always say mental health awareness. People need to be more aware, and it comes from awareness with any type of topic that needs to be like have more awareness brought to it. But I wanted everyone to be aware. We want everyone to be aware of what mental health is. And so it took me a long time, obviously, to come up with like the word, but I think just having the word aware, and that's a word that you have to be aware of a lot of things, you know, like many things. You have to be aware of what's going on at your job site. You have to be aware of what's going on with your family members. You have to be aware of what you're eating. You have to be, you know, like that word can be placed in every category. Yeah. But the reason I wanted to use it for this is because that's the most important word, and then it starts with one person. Yeah. So you have to be aware, and it starts with you, you know, and letting everyone else know. You know, so as soon as you're aware, let everyone else be aware, you know. So Awareone, and we can all come together. You know, that's pretty much how that word came to, if anyone's wondering why Awareone, you know.
Everyone's wondering.
Everyone is wondering, and they should. They should.
Yeah, it really does come down to so many different little factors, man. It's pretty cool to be able to really sit down and talk about a lot of different things that, you know, we could be still talking for another 2 hours about all this stuff. And we do it, you know, we do it every day, and it's an endless topic, right? Yeah. But you have to go through some of those things to really bring up some of this stuff, which, you know, we both have. We've gone through lots of different things, and I'll never forget that day because I wasn't in town. And for, you know, all the people listening, it's my girlfriend does like intuitive healing and readings and Reiki and all these different alternative healing methods.
Shout out to Silvie.
Yeah. And yeah, that was the first thing you did. You, like, after Mario passed, it was 8:00 in the morning, and you're like, I need to see you right away because, you know, I need to understand what's gone on with this. Yeah. And it just comes back to the point of really leaning on people in your life that are going to be beneficial, and finding those people and saying, these are the people I want around. So when these bad things do happen, you're going to go through some struggle, but you're going to have the right people there to help you through it, because those people are going to pick you up. They're going to do whatever needs to be done to make sure that you're going to get through it. And it's such a huge piece, right?
I was actually just talking about Silvie this morning with my grandmother and my mom, because my grandmother doesn't understand what she does.
Yeah. And not a lot of people do. There's a lot of people that, well, I shouldn't say not a lot of people do. There's, 50-50 maybe. People are like, what is that? I don't really understand.
I can't wait to have her on this podcast.
Yeah, she's going to love it. She's going to be
just because, like, if I didn't know Silvie, I wouldn't know what a medium was.
Yeah.
That's like, she introduced me to that world and stuff, into Reiki and all that stuff. But, for a lot of people, they don't have people in their lives that know mediums.
Or like for her, because she would say, well, when she comes on here, she'll say, oh, I'm not a medium, but then she can still do those things. Like you have,
right? Well, what does she like to be addressed as? Like
an intuitive healer, I guess I would say. She's got all those different modalities that she uses, but it really comes down to like, some people come to her and she does Reiki, and that's one thing, and then other people will ask for an intuitive healing reading, basically.
Yeah.
And you have seen that firsthand. Your brother, Chris, has seen that firsthand. Your mom, Michelle, has seen that firsthand. Yeah. And countless other people that are my friends, whether they're my friends or my friends' girlfriends or whoever it was, and they can't believe what she is possible, like what she can do is even possible.
Yeah, she's superhuman.
So, and it's one of those things that if people have those abilities, and I truly believe that people have all different kinds of abilities. I think that humans are bound by nothing, to be quite honest. And, some people believe in that, some people don't. And some people believe in a higher power, like, God or whatever. You can call it whatever it is that you want, but most people believe in something. They just call it different things. Yeah. And, that's for someone like her, she does everything that she can. And she helps people, where someone like you that comes in and is at, arguably the worst point in your life, and she's there to help you through it. And so am I, obviously, but not in that same way. So it's just so important, man. It's so important.
Oh, it's just so amazing. Like I was trying to describe it to my grandma of like what my session was like, or my last session. I've done 5, I think now. Yeah. But she was just like, kind of, I sound crazy describing it.
I know.
That's the hard thing about saying that stuff.
I know.
People listening to this right now, they're going to be like, "Oh wow, these guys don't know that." Like for anyone that is listening to this podcast, and we're talking about mediums right now, it's actually real.
Yeah,
it's real stuff. Like it's not a game. Like I experienced this firsthand. Yeah. I have connected with people that aren't physically here. Yeah, and that's like an amazing thing to even think about.
I know. Because again, it's all like we were talking about the energy, right? Like energy is such a big thing. Just because someone has passed on doesn't mean that their energy is gone.
Right.
And, that's where people will start to call it all different kinds of things, angels, whatever it is you want to say. But the bottom line is that, people have the ability to do that. She's just one of those special people that, and it's not like that was just some God-given ability that she has known about forever. Yeah. She had feelings of that, but she has now worked really hard to perfect her craft, or continue to perfect her craft, right?
And one thing about a medium, what she does, what her intuitive healing, she can, she's unable to bring negative things to the table.
Yeah.
Or how does she explain that? Sorry.
Well, I mean, for her, she can bring.
It's only to benefit you.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
But some of those things are going to be negative by nature. So maybe, maybe she's doing a session with somebody, and there's someone that they're trying to get in contact with, and then that they don't want that possibly. Typically, that's not the way it usually goes. But right. I mean, she would have to speak to this more, just because, again, I have knowledge about the subject, but not like her, so I don't want to speak.
Well, we'll save it for the podcast.
We'll save that one for the podcast for her. So, but
no, it's just very interesting to me, man, and it's very obviously it changed my life for the better, and it still does. I still think about things from that session. I was just thinking about something last night that just it just changed the way that I view the world, man. I view the world and how I think and how I operate. It's all because of that session. I just wanted to touch on that because I'm excited to have her on. But
yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's just one of those things when you look at it from a larger perspective. There are so many things that human beings are just capable of if you let it happen, and you put in a little bit of effort and, a little bit of work and all that kind of stuff. That's again, back to Gary Vee. He says all that stuff all the time. He says the same thing. If you want to be successful, if you want to be this, that, or the other thing, you have to work. Yeah. You can't be really successful and work 2 hours a day.
Right.
Like you have
it's
to
go. It's a
consistent thing. Of course, you're going to take time for yourself, but it's going to take a lot of hours and a lot of energy. And, we're capable of it. It's just whether or not, again, you're passionate about something that you're going to spend that amount of time on. Because a lot of people will say, well, you're obsessed. Like, our favorite basketball player, Kobe Bryant. Yeah. People will say he's obsessed. He'll say he's obsessed, but he loves basketball. He loves the fine details of everything that comes to basketball. So that's why he puts in so much time and effort.
Right.
Why is that a bad thing? To me, that's like, if it's a positive thing in your life, of course, if it was a negative thing, that would be different. But if it's a positive thing that benefits you and the other people around you that are close to you, that can never be negative, in my opinion. No. It just can't be a negative thing. If you're going to pour your heart and soul and energy and time into something that you love, like that's never going to end badly, I don't think. I think that's always just going to be a positive thing for you and other people around you.
And I think, like, just thinking about that, like why I wanted to do the apparel thing is because I want everyone to think about positive things when they see that A and the O. Yeah. 100%. For me, like, that's just so cool. Like, the coolest thing, man, is like when now we have random people that we don't know, wearing our stuff and believing in what we believe in.
Exactly.
And it just changes everything for me. I think it's just so cool when we get people on Instagram, like posting and reposting our stuff and tagging us in their pictures. It's like, man, it's just a cool feeling because they're believing in something that is very, it's positive, man. It's making people change for the better, and back to like the mental health and mental illnesses, like I think that's what has a bad name on mental health, because people think that if you're talking about mental health, you have some type of a mental illness or something. Yep. And that's not the way it is. I want to use mental health as a platform for really good things, like what book are you reading this week? How are you doing that? Like how do you do that leg exercise in the gym or, you know what I mean? And that type of stuff, which it's beneficial to people's lives. Yeah.
People don't want to ask those questions though, because they're afraid. Just as humans, people are afraid of what they don't understand, right? Yeah. I'm sure everybody's heard that phrase. They're afraid of what they don't understand. So if you don't understand, mental illness or mental health, or you're just not concerned with it, then that's where you're going to run into a problem, right? You really need to, look into this kind of stuff and dive into it and understand how important it is. We want to see people wearing this stuff, and I love to be able to see somebody wearing it thinking that they're thinking to themselves, I'm focusing on my mental health. You know what I mean? Like every time they look at it, every time they put it on, they think about something that maybe triggers a positive thought or whatever it is, right?
Or, in what I want, like I want the same thing, but I also want, people to be like, like they'll see, like their friend will ask them about it and be like, what does that A and O mean? Like what is that symbol? And then they'll just, even if people, like last year, I didn't know what mental health was. Yeah. 26 years old. I didn't know what mental health was, how oblivious I was. And, that would be the same thing if I was last year seeing someone that opened this thing. I'm like, what is that A and O? Like, what does that symbolize, And it's, leads back to your mental health, and that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's like the girl, at the dollar store. Remember I told you the story about the girl at the dollar store, the cashier.
Oh yeah,
wearing the sweater, and she's like, "Oh, what is that? I see that all over the place. I see it like whatever on social media and stuff." Yeah, and her line was really busy at the time, so I was trying to wait for her. She said, "Oh, I'm going to be like too long," so I just put our information on a little piece of paper and handed it to her and walked out, and she she followed us on Instagram and that, so that meant something to her, and she saw that and she was like, oh, I'm intrigued, I'm interested in that, right? Which is really, like, that was a super cool moment. I called you right away. I was in the dollar store waiting. I'm like, dude, this is a super cool moment, for something that has been done in a short period of time for random people to be asking you about it just because they see it and they recognize it.
Man, it's so cool that it's 6 months today.
I know.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, me neither. Like, what are the odds of that, right?
The 19th.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. And when you think about how far we've come a long way in 6 months, or now, I guess, because we started it, last Canada Day, it's one of those things that, that was a process to get everything ready. And we put a lot of energy and a lot of time and into getting it to where it needs to be. And we're still, we're not even close to scratching the surface. Obviously, we're going to continue to go and do what we need to do, right?
I feel like I'm Gary V always, man, because the guy always says that he just hasn't started, and the guy's like 45 years old. And he's like, I haven't even started yet. I'm like, man, he's doing pretty well.
I know. Well, it's, he talks about a lot of those things, and, he does things his way. That one interview that he has on his page with, I think it's just a random person that continuously asks him, like, why do you swear so much? Why do you swear so much? And he said,
the lady.
Yeah, that one lady. And he's like, this is me. He said, because I don't value using a swear word in the same way that you do. That's okay for you to value it that way. I don't value it that way. And her point is, well, what about your kids? Do you swear this much in front of your kids? And he said, yeah, because I just don't believe that using a swear word is going to change my kid's life. I don't think that that's going to make it any, worse for him or her. But this is me. This is who I am. And I feel like this is how I talk. So I'm going to talk how I talk. I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to be real.
Right.
And that was like, when we're sitting in our the white room in the core meeting.
Oh, yeah.
In the core meeting. Yeah, with highlight. And it's one of those things like, what do you want? If you could, associate Awareone with one word, our words that were there were real or authentic or true or things like that. And, that's what he is. Those people that are successful in that way, it's because they're telling their story the way that it's supposed to be told, not making it up for somebody else, right? And that's where, doing what I do every day, working with kids, I see it all the time where, people don't put enough emphasis on the mental health for their kids. And I see families struggling all the time, whether it's the kids, whether it's the entire family. And, that's part of why I want to do what I want to do with this is because when you look at it, from an outsider's perspective, it's so hard to not help when you want to help someone and you can't. These kids or, families, I want to help them. I want them to feel good about where they're going every single day. When they come in, being able to talk to families about positive things, negative things to do with their kids, being able to help the kids in one way or another and understand that, they have someone that's there for them every single day. Mm-hmm. Because for the most part, the group of kids that I work with every day, I see them more than their own family does. And people don't realize that. Their teachers see them so much throughout the day, and then they come to me right after school, and they're in my program until 5:30 or 6 o'clock. So you think about that. What do they do? What do they do now when they go home? They go home. They probably have dinner. They maybe do some homework or whatever. And these kids are only up to grade 3. So if you're 8 years old, you're going to bed at 7:30. That means you probably saw your mom or your dad or your grandparents, whoever you live with, in the morning,
very small
for a bit, and then maybe a couple hours a day. Yeah. So your impact is so huge on not only just say kids that I work with, but it's other things. Like if you see someone every day, you have to understand that you can impact them in some way every day, especially for the people you see every single day, whether it's your coworkers or whatever. You are a perfect example of that, because if you could have chose to go into your job at the mill and been upset, angry, thinking that you hate this job so much, but then you'd be like, no, I'm going to go in and I'm just going to do what I need to do, and I'm going to be positive about it. Maybe you complain about it at the end of the day when you get home.
To a small variety of people.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, how important is that to change the way you look at it? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the way we view mental health. We talk about it all the time. Yeah. So you do it every day. You did it every day for 2.5 years, because it's not like you loved that job, but you still did it. So your perspective on it was all about how you wanted to be positive. Yeah. Obviously, every day isn't positive, but you try. Right?
Yeah, you have to try, man. You have to try.
Yeah, and that's all you can ask for, right? Put in the effort and just see what happens, or change that mindset and see what happens. Yeah. And, since we started this, we're doing it all the time. We're talking every day. We're talking about things that are important to us. We're talking about, struggles and all this other stuff. So, I mean, that's what people should be doing. They shouldn't be afraid of that. But we are for some reason. Why is that?
I have no idea, man.
I don't know either, man. I don't understand that part. But
well, this is a great intro. We're gonna wrap it up. But for this specific podcast, I just wanted to let everyone know who we are, as co-owners of Awareone, and let people know where to find us. So, for our social media, do you want to talk about our social media?
Yeah, just Instagram is probably the biggest one that we use right now. Awareone.apparel. And we do have Facebook, Awareone Apparel, as well. And we have Twitter, which we don't really use a whole lot, but it seems like Instagram is really just the biggest one. So yeah, Awareone.apparel, if anyone can go and give a follow there. We're still donating money for every follower that we get on Instagram to basically mental health programs here in Vernon. So.
And as far as the podcast, we just got on Apple iTunes, so we'll be on there with the 6 different podcast streams that they have. And then also we're going to be on Spotify. We'll be on SoundCloud. And then my apologies for the video. We do have a new camera, but the first 3 podcasts are a little bit blurry.
Yeah.
And there's a date on there in the small right corner where you can see 2012. But it is 2019. Yeah. October the 19th. But yeah, that's where you can find us. And we're definitely going to be doing way more of these. And Rob's going to be on the show as much as possible. Yeah. But yeah, that's all we have to say for this. So thank you everyone that's joining in. Rob, my guy, thank you very much.
I only have one last thing to say, and that is our slogan, something that we kind of came up with, which we love, and we're going to have this on some of our apparel and that. But I am aware, we are one. So if you're listening to this, it's one of those things that we are all one. And, we hope people can hear the words that we've kind of spoken about ourselves and really understand where we're coming from, and why we want to do this and how passionate we are about it. And, the fact that we're doing it for, all the right reasons. And we just want to impact the world and create change, especially when it comes to how we view mental health. So.
Well, thank you very much for saying that. And guys, everyone listening, thank you for listening. And please subscribe to any channel, whether it be Apple and Spotify. We'll be hopefully putting a podcast out there at least once a week.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's where you can find us. So thank you very much, guys. You guys have a good day. Thank you, Rob.
Cheers.